Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of discussion about whether or not there are shortages or not, or I think a couple of things I want to make sure we focused on. 13 of 23 critical facilities were found by the IG to be below the facility's planning staffing range. And two of these facilities are Chicago Tracon and Chicago O'Hare Tower, which are below the minimum level for CPCs. And so we're talking about some of the busiest terminal aerospace in the entire world. Now, in the Chicago Tracon, Chicago Center O'Hare Tower, the percentage of retirement eligible controllers range from 43 to 50%. So clearly, we see problems right now and certainly issues in the future with having shortages. I have great concerns about what has been done with the changes to the system for hiring controllers. I know that I have one of the best CTI schools in the country in my district, Lewis University, in Romeoville. Professor Bill Parrott is here today. We talked about this yesterday. I want to point out that there's a 2013 report by the FAA Civil Aeronautical Medical Institute that said, quote, based on training performance, a preference for CTI graduates over general applications seems warranted. And another in 2014 that said, quote, overall larger proportions of CTI hires achieve professional controller status than did general public hires. Now, I know that in hiring procedures were changed in 2013, there was an alarming increase in the number of academy failures in 2015. So it just seems common sense to me, as others have noted, that it's common sense to hire from CTI graduates and veterans first. So Ms. Bristol, can you tell me how veterans and CTI graduates' performance and training compares with those from the general population?
Congressman, I don't have those statistics with me. I would have to provide those to you.
Okay, I'd very much like to see that because it seems like something we would want to know, especially when we see this increase in academy failures, and we want to know who is performing best and really is succeeding in the process. Now, I want to associate myself with Mr. Holcren's comments when he spoke before this panel. We need to figure this out. We cannot have, I understand that because of the current and coming potential shortages of air traffic controllers, we don't want to slow the system down, but we have to get at how we do this best to keep our aviation safe. We need to get at a lot of those things Mr. Holcren talked about. We need to get we need to understand the alleged cheating that went on, to know what happened there. I think Mr. Holcren's bill that I work with him on, HR 1964, is the best way to go about doing this. I'm also co-sponsor of Mr. Curbalo's and Mr. Maloney's bill, although for the reasons Mr. Holcren laid out there, I think his bill is, I prefer that bill. But we need to do a much better job here. One question I want to ask, there's probably not any information on it. I'm not sure if it's directly related to what we're talking about here, but Ms. Bristol, around midnight on June 4th, an incoming commercial flight was unable to reach air traffic controllers in the Chicago Midway Tower. The flight was diverted to Milwaukee, and two other incoming flights were directed to enter holding patterns until communications were reestablished. Now, during this time, the crews remained in contact with Tracon in Elgin, so it wasn't any direct safety issue. But I wanted to know if the FAA has determined the cause of this communications difficulty.
Yes, thank you, Congressman. We are investigating that matter. We expect to wrap up that investigation in the next 2 to 3 days, and we'll certainly circle back with your office to share that information.
It's obviously very, very critical that we get to the bottom of this incident. Also, But getting back, we need to make sure, I want to find the answer to the question about how the CTI and veterans perform, and that I will yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Lipinski. Mr. Micah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.